I think it's safe to say that Stefon Diggs early on in training camp has exceeded the expectations of the Patriots just physically. You go back to last season. I mean, it was a significant injury that took him off the field for the Houston Texans. It was a torn ACL. It was the kind of thing where if you tear your ACL in the middle of the season, a lot of times for guys, you can practice in training camp, but it really takes you several games to kind of get back into it. It does not feel like that has been the case for Stefon Diggs. I wonder just personally if he would start, the year on the PUP list. Didn't. Came in practicing. Practices very hard. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him today. One of my favorite practice players just because every rep is so important to him. But this doesn't feel like a guy that's going to be on a pitch count. This doesn't feel like a guy that's going to have to be eased in. It feels like a star receiver who has really hit the ground running. And like for Drake Maye to have that guy where you can throw it up and that there's a pretty good chance your guy comes down with it when you got to have it. Like, there's not a lot of those in the league, but Stefon Diggs is one, and he has really impressed in New England.
There it is, the voice of Aaron Rappaport talking about how important Drake Maye and Stefon Diggs, that connection is for the Patriots. I was critical, as you know, Kasey, of the signing of Stefon Diggs.
Oh, I know.
For what they paid for him at his age, coming off an injury. But even I can admit it is an upgrade at the wide receiver position for this team based on what we've seen in recent years.
Welcome to this team.
I know.
Welcome to this side.
Hashtag growth.
It's about time. Honestly, it's about time.
Let's go to Mike Dussault of Patriots.com, who's like, yeah, Trav, duh. So let's start there, Mike. Thanks for getting up with us early in the morning. And look, I was critical. We'll just jump in, okay? I thought it reeked of desperation for the Patriots to pay this kind of money. Not so much that they signed Stefon Diggs, but paying him the way they did. But, hey, he is a number one wide receiver. He is an upgrade based off everything they have on this roster for now at the wide receiver position. You know where I'm going. We'll get into that later. Your thoughts on Stefon Diggs' recovery and building that chemistry with Drake Maye?
I mean, I'd echo everything that Ian Rappaport said. I think we all were taking it precautiously coming in that, all right, he might need a little time to come back from the ACL. However, we did see back in 2010, Wes Welker came back pretty quick. And Stefon Diggs has been outstanding in camp. He's been everything I think they hoped that he would be, not just on the field, but you can tell he's taking a mentorship role with that wide receiver room. You see him almost every day after practice signing autographs for the fans. You just can tell Stefon Diggs moves different. He's a special player. This is the kind of player that the Patriots have needed for a long time. So at this point, I'm not even thinking about any contract or money. I'm just happy that he's here, and I think he's going to be a huge key for Drake Maye, like you said.
I was already happy that he was here, but you know what? I'm ever the optimist most of the time. I heard that Stefon Diggs just mentioned, look, I miss football, and everybody is having resounding feedback to say at the end of the day he's exceeding expectations. So I want to get your opinion on something. What would you grade this wide receiving room? Because for months it's kind of been sitting at a C average because they weren't sure what Stefon Diggs was going to do to level up this room, not only from a mentorship perspective, but how quickly he was going to bounce back from injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge upgrade. He changes the whole dynamic, and you've seen Pop Douglas have a really solid camp. You see Matt Collins came back yesterday. He's a player that had his best year of his career under Josh McDaniels, playing a significant role, and you saw a little teaser of that yesterday with him coming in. Also point out Kayshon Boutte, who's had a really good camp as well. So, really I tie it back to, yes, Stefon Diggs is there. He's that proverbial number one that they've needed. But at the same time, the key to me has been Drake Maye and the way that he has taken in Josh McDaniels' system and seems to really be comfortable in it. You haven't really seen a lot of dangerous throws, turnover-worthy throws. There's maybe one would have been interception the first day of camp with Jabril Peppers that Drake pointed out yesterday, but otherwise he's been really safe with the ball. And I think all the other issues we talk about, how good is their wide receiver room, how good is their offensive line going to be, all of those problems are mitigated a little bit if Drake Maye takes these strides that it looks like he's taking over these first 8 practices. So certainly Stefon Diggs changes the equation, and it might help those other guys down the roster improve their matchups. Certainly Pop Douglas is one I think to watch out for. He really seems like he's grasping the system as well. So there's a renewed excitement, and I know where we're probably going. I would definitely welcome another wide receiver, though, if we get to that point.
Well, I would like to go there, but first, let's talk Drake Maye because, I want to put some numbers on it. I think a lot of us around here are looking for Drake Maye in year 2 to take that leap, and I understand that. but I want to put it in context of numbers. So last season, 2,200 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. We know he didn't even play for the first month there, Mike. What does success in year 2, numbers-wise, look like for Drake Maye to you in a Josh McDaniels offense?
Sure. I mean, I'd start with the turnovers. I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
And just away from the numbers for a moment, I think it's cutting down on turnovers, and it's about how is he playing crunch time. That's what makes those great quarterbacks great. There's a lot of talent out there at quarterback position, but the ones that are never dead, that you're going to have to put down at the end of the game, like Tom Brady, I don't want to make those comparisons, but I think it's it's in the under 15 interceptions, certainly. I would say, 10, 12, somewhere in there. Keeping those turnovers well below 1 a game would be a huge key. And if you could get to 25, 30 touchdowns, I think it's a really solid year for Drake.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know it's a lot, but hey, Josh McDaniels, he's done it before. Yeah. He's got the system, and I think with Stefon Diggs, you're really going to see a new Drake Maye that has some explosive playmaking ability.
Sticking with the confidence in the sophomore expectations, what level of confidence are you seeing from Drake Maye? Because some of the bits that I've heard from training camp, he is fearless when it comes to going against the secondary and putting his wide receivers in tight coverage. He's not even blinking an eye. And at one point, he told Christian Gonzalez before the hamstring injury, "I'm coming for you. I'm aiming for you." And this is now one of the top-ranked cornerbacks in the league. So how can we address the level of confidence that you're seeing out of a sophomore QB right now early on in training camp?
It's outstanding. I mean, that's plenty of talk about, Josh, he's got a tough system to pick up. And we know, that he asks a lot of the quarterback. And even going back to OTAs, when we watched him in the spring a little bit, I mean, admittedly, much less tempo and, competitiveness in that point. But he just seems to know where to go with the ball consistently. And, the coaches talk a lot about taking the profit, not trying to force the big plays, but taking what's there. And I think we've seen a good amount of that. But we've also seen Drake, like you said, stand in the pocket sometimes when there was some pressure around him and step up and deliver some throws into some tight windows. He hasn't been avoiding those downfield throws. He certainly connected on beautiful one a couple of days ago to Kyle Williams in the end zone, who's another little bit of a wild card at wide receiver that I didn't mention. So overall, it just looks outstanding from Drake. You love the lack of turnovers. And like I said, those are the 2 big keys for me this year, cutting down on those turnovers. And at the end of games, when the game is on the line, when you need a touchdown, you need to put the game away, can Drake step up and lead the offense to that needed drive?
Mike, I know we just met, but let's get to know each other, you and I.
Sure.
That's a terrifying start. I'm sorry, Mike. I apologize on behalf of all of us already.
I know your knees already, but...
Well, Mike, I'm just going to put all my cards on the table here, and I like to dabble in sports betting. And I'm looking at the odds right now. Terry McLaurin's next team. Commanders are the favorites, Mike. But right after them, the Patriots have the best odds to land Terry McLaurin. Now, if you follow the tea leaves here, Terry has requested a trade, finally. I mean, are we talking about the Patriots making a move for this guy? Because if you're going to sell me Terry McLaurin, Stefon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams in my receiver room, I can buy that. That sounds really, really good to me. Do you believe the Patriots will trade for Terry and give him the bag that he wants to come here to be wide receiver numero uno, my friend?
I think if he really becomes available, the Patriots will be in on it. Now, can they close the deal or not? We'll see. But I think you've seen over the past year with Elliott Wolf that every time one of these receivers becomes available, Brandon Ayuk, et cetera, they're in the mix. And it doesn't always mean that those guys are going to land here. But I think as we've seen over the past few years how hard it is to acquire these elite wide receivers, and really in today's NFL how necessary it is to have those kind of weapons. You look at the great teams, unless you have an elite quarterback with maybe one elite weapon, you need those elite wide receivers to take your quarterback to the next level. So spend a lot of time talking about having your quarterback on a rookie contract, and we know the Patriots still have some cap space to work with. So I think it all could line up. Commanders are coming here next week. Maybe a little conversations here in the tunnel right outside my studio here. I don't know, but I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't kick the tires on Terry McLaurin for sure, and that would really elevate this offense.
I would agree. And in fact, you spoke about how, like a Brandon Ayuk, some of these guys use this as leverage. Ayuk demanded a trade and got paid. T. Higgins at one point demanded a trade and got paid from the Bengals. So a lot of this could be posturing as well. But I went back and looked at DK Metcalf. Remember, he got moved from Seattle to the Steelers. All it took, Mike, was a second and a sixth to get DK Metcalf. Now, of course, we know the Steelers gave him all the money in the world. But hell, the Patriots, they have the cap space. What do you think the trade would look like for a Terry McLaurin? Do you think it would be as simple as a 2nd and a 6, or would it be maybe, I don't know, I'm making this up, a 2nd-round pick in one of these wide receiver bodies, like a Kendrick Bourne or something? What do you think that would look like framework-wise for the trade?
I like that framework. I think if I'm the Patriots, though, I'm going to try to give up a little less because obviously you're going to have to give Terry McLaurin this contract that he is holding out for and wanting. So I think you're in the right neighborhood, certainly.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Patriots do have some depth at wide receiver, some young guys. I mean, Javon Baker's another name who's played well the last couple of days. Jalen Polk last year, 2nd-round pick. So maybe one of those guys, just in terms of trying to give the Commanders a guy back for their depth chart, that makes a lot of sense to me. So as far as I just think everything's on the table. When Drake Maye is where Drake Maye is at right now, needing this year to really elevate, he's on his rookie deal. You have the money to do it. If the Patriots could make it happen, I don't see really too much out of the question, maybe other than a 1st-round pick.
All right.
I think that that is safe, and plus it doesn't make us feel like we're going too far out of pocket. Now, a lot of times when you talk about trade conversations or packaging things to move forward, it comes at the idea of where and what do we have to give up. Now, do you think that this would be worthy in a sense that the New England is an attractive place to play? Because that's what you hear a lot of times with players. Would it be attractive enough for McLaurin to come here and make a difference, knowing that maybe they're not contenders for a couple years?
Yeah, well, money talks, and certainly the Patriots have the quarterback right now. I think that's a big part of it, too. I'd also say that the respect that Mike Vrabel seems to have around the league by players and the program that he's running, he's a former player. He's out there jumping in with the guys. You can tell that all the players on the team really respect him. So, you know, I get it. I get when you're a bad team, you don't have a quarterback. It's hard to get free agents to come here. But I would hope over the last, 6 months or so with Drake starting to shine and Diggs is here now, and, you see what they're starting to do on the defensive side of the ball, bring it all together with Mike Vrabel. I think there is some appeal there. Now, they've got to earn it this year, and I think that's another big part of this year, not just Drake Maye's development, but, getting back to that point where, hey, maybe we can push the Bills at the top of the division. Can we get past the Dolphins this year and beat Tua for the first time? That would be nice. So the Patriots can start checking those boxes off. I think the destination will become even more appealing.
I agree, Mike. If I'm Terry, I actually look at New England as Commanders AFC because you have the young quarterback check. Now, you didn't have the success the Commanders had last year, but you have the young quarterback check. You have a really good, maybe potentially great head coach in Mike Vrabel. Yes. Check, he had Quinn in D.C. Like, I kind of look at it as it's very similar to what he has framework-wise in D.C. The difference here would be they would give you the money. I think he could win here. I want to ask you about Vrabel since I brought him up. You've been covering Patriots camp for a long time. Does it feel different? I tell people all the time, I've been here in town now 3 years. I got here at the end of Belichick, which was just pure miserable. I know the guy was miserable even when you're winning, but I got here when it was real miserable, okay? And it feels like some juice, some energy around this franchise again with Mike Vrabel. Do you feel that at training camp?
No question about it. And Mike Vrabel, obviously, he's a known name to fans. Everybody loves him for all the, great plays he made on the field and championships that he helped this franchise win. But I think you can tell this is a good spot for, it's kind of like Bill Belichick, where he had his first coaching experience, didn't quite work out, took a little time off, figured out how he wanted to do it next time, and came back in with a plan. And that's what I've seen from Vrabel. It's not just the fact that he's hopping into drills and leading the charge after they break the huddle at the start of practice when he brings the whole team in. That energy is contagious, and that's what we've been talking and hearing all about all spring is just the energy that he's brought. Really, it's a tough spot to come in last year, replacing Bill Belichick. I think now you're a little bit distanced from that, and it's an opportunity for Mike Vrabel to really put his stamp on the team, and that's what I see. When you watch this team in camp, you said, you know what, I don't know, people want to ask win predictions, all that stuff. I think this is going to be a tough team that is molded in Mike Vrabel's personality, just like he was as a player. Tough, no nonsense, and you can see it on the field. The players playing hard. That's what he's asking them, aggressive. It's going to be a little bit of a different look in terms of some of the schemes, but overall, Mike Vrabel, I think, has just been exactly what this organization is needed right now. And, we'll see how it all comes together. But so far, it looks to me like he's pushing all the right buttons.
Yeah, he knows how to inject that energy into the veins of everyone around him. But a position group that I'd be remiss not to bring up is the offensive line. There was a number of question marks heading into training camp. Now they're kind of playing musical chairs. They're trying to lean on the versatility of a number of these guys. But what you don't want to do is start a regular season still not knowing how strong your offensive line can be ahead of you. Will Campbell kind of having some struggles. Jared Wilson showing flashes of hope. But what are you seeing out of this offensive line?
Yeah, well, Garrett Bradbury went down, left practice a couple days ago, and so that basically then they all of a sudden settled with Ben Brown, who was the starting center for a large chunk of the end of last year. And you mentioned Jared Wilson, the rookie, who's really turned a lot of heads and really been impressive, especially in one-on-one drills. You can just see immediately his athleticism. Go back and look at his testing numbers at the combine. He's just, an athletic freak. So they've been managing Morgan Moses a little bit as well. Mike Onwenu has been a stalwart there through camp at right guard. So, Will Campbell, certainly been some ups and downs with camp early on. And, Morgan Moses spoke with the media yesterday, talked a little bit about it. It was pretty obvious to everybody in some of the team portions 2 days ago that, Campbell got beat a couple times by K'Lavon Chase onto the inside, an issue that some scouts had talked about with him coming out. But, I think that's all part of the process for him. And, the fact that they might have two rookies starting on the offensive line may be a little scary, but I also look at it as, we're not trying to make it all about this year. We're trying to build around Drake Maye and, to give him two rookie offensive linemen who are maybe going to take some lumps, but at the same time be in it for the long haul with Drake and really form that core that the Patriots had always when they were really good and winning championships. I think that's a huge part of it. So we'll see. I mean, there's going to be some ups and downs, I'm sure, with some rookies on the line, but you hope that the veterans on the right side, like Moses and Mike Onwenu, and we'll see what happens at center. Bradbury, I'm assuming another veteran, though. He should be back soon, and maybe he goes back into that starting center spot. But I think the brightest spot's just been Jared Wilson, and him, looks like he's slipping into that left guard spot right now.
Mike, a lot of fans think this team's going to make the playoffs. Where are you at? Kasey and I have gone back and forth. I'm in between 7 and 9 wins. Yeah. And by the way, Mike, I don't know if 9 wins in the AFC even get you in. Ask the Bengals from last season. Where are you at with how many wins this team gets and if they make the playoffs or not?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick my flag on 9. We get this question all the time on our shows, and I'm like, what? Everyone wants it, and certainly, look, there's injuries that can happen, and we know all the things that can happen that could derail it. But when I look at this team, it looks like a real tough football team. Yeah. How is it going to translate into wins and losses? It's hard to say at this moment because there's so many new ingredients. Certainly, the Jets are, a rival that has similar kind of path, and I think a lot of these teams that we're looking at as, the Patriots could win that game, the Patriots could win this game. The other teams are looking at it and saying, well, Jets, we could beat the Patriots. Steelers, we could beat the Patriots. So they're in that fourth place schedule land right now, and that's where you see it every year. A couple teams take advantage of that schedule, play well, stay healthy, and are able to make some noise down near the end of the season. So I like the 9 wins. I've watched this team. They look like a really good football team. Yeah. I don't know how good yet, but I'm going to go with 9 wins. And like you said, though, is it enough to get into the playoffs? We'll see.
We'll see. That's where Terry McLaurin doesn't hurt you. Mike Dussault of Patriots.com. We appreciate you joining us here on Boston Has Entered the Chat.